In the 18th century Naples, Italy, a flatbread, a wood fire, and a handful of ingredients that most of the world already had. That single combination quietly spread to every continent on Earth. What happened next was not a copy. Every culture that touched it pulled it apart and rebuilt it entirely from scratch. 8 pizzas, 8 countries, not one of them the same. Pizza Napolitana. Pizza Napolitana is thin wheat dough, stretched by hand, topped with San Marzano tomatoes, fior di latte mozzarella, and fresh basil, then cooked in a wood-fired oven at 485 degrees for exactly 90 seconds. The char on the crust is not a mistake. It is the whole point. 2 versions exist: marinara, tomato only, and margherita, tomato with mozzarella and basil. That is the entire menu. Simplicity is the doctrine. In 1984, the Associazione Verace Pizza Napolitana was formed specifically to protect these rules: the flour, the fermentation, the fire, the time. In 1889, a pizzaiolo named Raffaele Esposito made 3 pizzas for Queen Margherita during her visit to Naples, Italy. She chose one. He named it after her. It began there, and the 90 seconds never changed. Chicago Deep Dish. Chicago Deep Dish is a 2 to 3 inch deep circular steel pan filled in reverse order. Mozzarella laid directly on the raw dough first, then Italian sausage, then toppings, then a thick layer of crushed San Marzano tomatoes spread across the top. The sauce goes last. The cheese never sees the open oven directly, sealed beneath everything above it, melting into the dough from below while the tomatoes cook down on top. Giordano's stuffed version adds a second layer of dough above the cheese, sealing everything inside entirely before the sauce goes on. It started at Pizzeria Uno in Chicago. The pan itself became the defining feature, a circular steel vessel 2 to 3 inches deep that no Italian kitchen had ever used for pizza. Gino's East, which opened in 1966, baked theirs in seasoned steel pans that were never washed, the accumulated layers of grease from decades of baking becoming part of the flavor of every crust that came after. Lou Malnati's, which opened in 1971, introduced a buttery, flaky crust made with cornmeal that became its own category entirely. Today, every major Chicago deep dish restaurant traces its lineage directly back to that first kitchen on Ohio Street, and every one of them makes a different pizza. Msimen. Msimen is a square, flaky flatbread from Morocco, layers of dough folded over themselves repeatedly, slapped onto a dry griddle, and cooked until the outside is golden and crisp, and the inside pulls apart in thin, buttery sheets. No oven, no sauce, no cheese. The griddle is the only tool required. It is eaten at breakfast with honey and butter, or filled with spiced onion, cumin, and minced meat and folded into a tight parcel before it finishes cooking. The filling is sealed inside the fold, not placed on top. Ever. It started in Morocco as a staple of Amazigh households, made by hand every morning across the country for centuries before it became street food. The fold is the technique. The griddle is the rule. It began there, and the squares have been pulled apart by hand ever since. Every country has its own version of something. Comment what food we should do next, and subscribe for more foods from around the world. Lahmacun. Lahmacun is a paper-thin round of dough, stretched nearly translucent, topped with minced lamb or beef, onion, tomato, parsley, and a spice blend that changes depending entirely on where in Turkey it was made. Gaziantep versions lean hard into red pepper. Urfa versions are darker, smokier, slower. It comes out of the oven flat. It is never eaten flat. Fresh parsley and a squeeze of lemon go on top, and then it is rolled, tight by hand, and eaten like that. There is no cheese. There has never been cheese. The word itself comes from Arabic. Lam, meaning meat, and ajin, meaning dough. Meat on dough. The entire recipe is in the name. It began in Turkey, and it has never once needed cheese to be complete. Khachapuri. Khachapuri is a bread boat from the Ajara region of Georgia. Dough shaped into an open vessel, filled with melted Sulguni cheese and butter, with a raw egg cracked directly into the center at the last possible moment before it reaches the table. The egg is not fully cooked. That is not an oversight. You stir it yourself, tableside, pulling the yolk through the hot cheese until it becomes something that has no name in any other cuisine. Georgia has other versions. Imeretian Khachapuri folds the cheese inside a flat round. Megrelian adds cheese on top as well. But Ajaruli, the boat, is the one that stops people. It began in Georgia, in a region where dairy was currency and bread was survival. It began there, and the egg has been cracked at the table ever since. Martabak. Martabak arrives from a street cart in Indonesia in two versions, savory and sweet, sold by the same vendor, cooked in the same pan, ordered at the same time. The savory version is thin, layered dough folded around egg, minced meat, and spring onion, then pan-fried until the outside shatters. The sweet version is a thick, yeasted batter poured into the same pan and filled, once set, with chocolate, cheese, peanuts, and condensed milk. Not a dessert sold separately, not a different stall. The same cart, the same fire. Two completely opposite things. It traveled to Indonesia through Indian and Arab traders, related to the Indian martabak, itself descended from Middle Eastern folded breads. Indonesia received it, split it in two, and kept both. It began somewhere else, and Indonesia made it two things at once. Flammekueche. Flammekueche is a paper-thin rectangle of dough spread with creme fraiche and fromage blanc, scattered with lardons and onion, then slid directly into a wood-fired oven until the edges blister and char. There is no tomato. There is no mozzarella. The name means flame cake because it was originally placed in the oven before the bread went in to test whether the fire had reached the right temperature. If it came out burned, the oven was ready. A temperature gauge made of dough that people started eating. It comes from Alsace, France, the border region between France and Germany that has changed hands between the two countries multiple times across centuries. The recipe belongs to neither side completely. It began there in a disputed place as a tool, and the oven has been hot enough ever since. Pizza Brasileira. Pizza Brasileira is a margherita base loaded beyond what any Italian kitchen would recognize. Catupiry, cream cheese, hearts of palm, calabresa sausage, corn, and enough additional toppings that the original flatbread underneath is almost theoretical. More cheese, more filling, more of everything. And then, after the savory course, comes dessert pizza, banana with cinnamon and condensed milk, chocolate, strawberry, ordered from the same menu, eaten at the same table, treated as a completely normal course, and not a novelty in any way. São Paulo, Brazil alone has over 6,000 pizzerias, making Brazil the second largest pizza-consuming country in the world. Italian immigrants arrived in São Paulo in the late 19th century and brought the recipe with them. The city took it, ran it through a completely different pantry, and produced something that now defines its own category entirely. It began somewhere else, and São Paulo decided it wasn't finished yet. 8 cultures picked up the same idea: dough, heat, something on top, and not one of them made the same thing. A Moroccan cook folds it into squares on a dry griddle. A Georgian cracks an egg at the table. A Brazilian orders it for dessert. The pizza is the simplest food on earth. No culture has ever agreed on what it is.